When you have this many social talents, you just can't help but talk about them all. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. We're still talking about the first edition Pathfinder Vigilante. I was originally planning on going over to talk about their Vigilante Talents, the actual combat role kind of talents that they can select from, but I just found myself compelled to keep talking about a few more of their social talents. There's still a whole slew and bevy of them to select from that have varying degrees of usefulness depending on the campaign and setting, but still, it's just so much, and they're all I find them all to be fascinating and useful, so we will dive into that. But before we do, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now, let's talk about this last handful of social talents. And to start us off for today, we have Ancestral Enlightenment. Attempt any knowledge check untrained. If the Vigilante already has ranks in a knowledge skill, they get a +4 bonus on those skill checks. Now, they do have to be 5th level to select this, but this still allows you to kind of spread around your skill points a little bit more. Have just that extra bit of flexibility, so that way you can get a pretty solid bonus to a wide variety of skills there that will help keep you competitive and capable of making all kinds of checks successfully. Then the next one is actually one that I really like and disagree with the handful of guides that I had read over it, and that's Guise of Life. Corporeal undead vigilantes that use this talent so that their social identity appears to be alive. Successful knowledge checks register the vigilante as alive and counts as living for divination spells and effects. Now, this is only useful if you are an undead vigilante. But for anyone who is an undead vigilante, this is absolutely worth its weight in gold. You're going to be able to pose as a living, breathing human being, or elf, or dwarf, or whatever kind of corporeal creature you've decided to cram your form into. Now, why is that important? Well, most campaigns do not have much of an undead focus. This allows you to be able to pose and survive in societies of living beings, because in most places, undead tend to be a bit of a problem and are met as if they are a problem and dealt with in such fashion. So this will allow you to open up a lot of roleplay options that would otherwise be denied you. And then you can, at night or whatever time you decide to go out and about to be your vigilante self, you can be this unholy, undead terror upon whoever has wronged you. This is how you can be a vengeful spirit, a vengeful creature in this corporeal form. And the roleplay options here are just myriad, many, and full of depth and so much fun. This is one I highly recommend. Now, this does have a mirror opposite. It's Guise of Unlife, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, a living creature can appear and register as an undead creature. Now, that's useful if you're in a very specific setting where you're a living being in the midst of a bunch of undead, but I don't see that one as being quite as useful, except in that specific situation, whereas Guise of Life will be broadly useful over the course of a wide variety of different kinds of campaigns and settings. But, you know, if you are going into a setting where there's going to be a lot of undead, whole societies of them, and you want to be able to pose as an undead creature, then of course that will be worth its weight in gold to you. Platinum, it's your life, it will keep you alive. But we should move on from there before I keep rambling and going down the rabbit hole. So the next social talent we have for you is Case the Joint. Use your social identity to learn about a location by spending 1 hour in the place and making a DC 20 knowledge engineering check. On success, the Vigilante can re-roll a failed check related to the location's layout, so a stealth roll, disable device, any number of skills like that. And for every 10 by which you exceed the check of DC 20, you can gain another reroll. So if you get a 21, that's one reroll. You get a 30, That's 2. 40, now you have 3 rerolls, and that's really useful. Now, it's a limited number of rerolls, but a botched stealth check, any veteran gamer will know, a botched stealth check can go south really, really fast. So having all of that in place and being able to make a reroll is good, and this is another talent that I think is more useful than several other guides have made it seem to be, because a lot of people say things like, oh, well, you know, good luck getting access to any sort of facility. You're playing a class that has all kinds of bonuses and talents for disguising themselves. You can get into a lot of different places through a lot of different means, regardless of what your social background might be. Sure, Bruce Wayne is not going to be able to get access to a high security laboratory, but Bruce Wayne is smart enough and capable enough to pass himself off as a lab technician, lift a badge off of somebody, and is able to slip in and then gain a sense of what the layout and what the grounds are like and where things are generally at. So when he comes back later as Batman, he's going to be able to sneak, infiltrate his way around and know exactly where he needs to go. It'll confuse the hell out of his enemies how he knows exactly where everything's at and how he'd even gotten in there in the first place. But still, this is much more viable than a lot of other guides make it seem to be. Now, one thing to note though is that after a week, if you haven't made use of this bonus after making your DC 20 knowledge check, then you have to go in and do it again, because the circumstances, situation, layout, location of things may have changed substantially enough, or just the sheer degradation of the memory of it gets a little bit fuzzy and hazy. So you do want to use this kind of quickly. It does put you on a little bit of a timetable, but if it's a spot you're already scoping out and scouting, chances are you're going to be executing on your plan fairly quickly. So it is what it is. Just make sure that you do make use of it. And lastly, we come up to one that has a lot of utility, and that is Mockingbird. You gain the ability to mimic nearly any voice, animal calls, sound effects, and can throw your voice. This counts as ghost sound, ventriloquism, and vocal alterations all at the same time. So you're able to duplicate the effects of 3 separate spells all at once. That's massive. That's a huge amount of utility, especially Ghost Sound. Ghost Sound is a great spell. Ventriloquism's not bad, and vocal alteration certainly has plenty of uses as well. But combine this talent with your ability to disguise yourself and essentially let yourself blend in and become part of the crowd, or look like you are exactly where you're supposed to be, like with the aforementioned lab tech example. The ability to change your voice like that and disguise yourself as like, oh, that's not that popular celebrity, that's not that local noble that everybody's been going on about, that's just Frank from over in the cafeteria. See, it even sounds like Frank. Clearly it's Frank. You know, any number of things like that that will help allow you to infiltrate and trip up any attempts by the DM to go, oh wait, your voice doesn't sound quite right. Make a disguise check at an enhanced DC. This lets you get around that, and there's not really much of a level limitation on when you can select this. I believe at most it's 3rd or 5th level, should have written it down, but ADHD brain and everything, and racing around with kids. But enough about that. What do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Go on down and let me know what other social talents you might recommend for the Vigilante. And remember, go on down there, hit the like button, and share your thoughts down below so that we can engage in discussion. And if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.